It's been reassuring over the past week to hear US President Donald Trump come out and say that wind farms are an economic and environmental disaster. And as he's correctly said, that they only work with massive government subsidies, and the US is no longer going to subsidise these things because they just push up the price of electricity and cause environmental destruction.
And you can talk about windmills. They litter our country. They're littered all over our country, like dropping paper, like dropping garbage in a field. And that's what happens to them, because in a period of time they turn to garbage. Most expensive energy ever. They only work if you get subsidy. The only people that want them are the people that are getting rich off windmills, getting massive subsidies from the U.S. government. And it's the most expensive energy there is. So we're going to try and have a policy where no windmills are being built. Off the coast of New Jersey, they want to build like 200 windmills. The people are going crazy. Nobody wants them, and they're very expensive. They don't work without subsidy. You don't want energy that needs subsidy. Energy is a good business. You don't need subsidy.
The big problem with wind turbines is the intermittency. That makes them truly economically unviable unless they are parasitic of other baseload power and backed up by hugely expensive battery cost. But the real damage these wind turbines are doing is to our environment. Just look at how they're scarring the landscape in Queensland, bulldozing a beautiful native forest. But the real damage is done to our endangered species, our eagles, those big raptors. They are attracted to wind turbines, and we've seen, just in Tasmania alone, reports of hundreds of eagles dying and being killed and maimed by these wind turbines. Now, if you follow the science on these things and you read through some of the scientific literature, you can see why they are so dangerous to eagles. A paper by Barros and Rodriguez noted that many raptor species rely significantly on soaring flight, which is dependent on air currents. Unfortunately, these same air currents are often suitable for wind energy development, leading to an increased risk of collisions with wind turbines. Things wind turbines and eagles don't mix, but the habitats of these eagles is exactly where these wind turbines are being built. Another paper by Martin noted that the vision of raptors is more suited for focusing on distant objects, potentially diminishing their awareness of closer obstacles in their immediate vicinity, especially during hunting. That's possibly why we see so many of the strikes of these beautiful big birds being whacked by these turbine blades travelling at hundreds of kilometres an hour. And another paper by Beston in 2016 noted why the danger of why this is causing species potentially to go extinct. He noted raptors tend to have delayed sexual maturation and long lifespans with relatively low reproductive capacity, resulting in populations that are slow to recover from additive mortality. But despite all this, we've had those from the wind turbine industry trying to downplay the damage to these beautiful big eagles, how it threatens endangered species, these large raptors, by trying to compare them with deaths of sparrows and little birds. And they say, cats eat more than, cats kill more birds than wind turbines. Well, cats take out little sparrows. Cats don't take out big eagles. In fact, it's the opposite. It's the big eagles that are more likely to be predators to cats rather than the other way around. Now, we've seen this happen through the industry, trying to make up these stories to try and excuse the environmental damage that they've been doing. And yet, here we have Australia's Energy Minister putting out a video which he farcically calls Bowen Explains. Like, seriously. Just parroting these lines that the wind industry have been using for over a decade, as though he's made some wonderful discovery. Just listen to this.
You've probably heard some people argue that we shouldn't use wind power because wind turbines kill birds. Let's have a look at the facts. Well, many studies have been done on this around the world, and the evidence is clear. The biggest killer of birds in the world is cats. Second is buildings. I'm sure we've all seen poor birds run into windows. Third is cars. Fourth, pesticides, makes sense. Fifth, power lines. Sixth, mobile phone towers, very important, but they do kill birds. And then seventh, why we need strict environmental protections, is wind turbines. And of course, you know what's a huge threat to bird life? Climate change, which is why we have to keep going. Which is why we have to keep going.
It is embarrassing and cringeworthy, but this is a minister of the Crown. He is simply making excuses to try and cover up the environmental damage and destruction from these wind turbines. It is endangered species, it is eagles that is the real concern that these wind turbines do, not the small sparrows and birds that cats go after. And yet this is what we get coughed up from a minister of the Crown. As I said, it is embarrassing and it is cringe-worthy. And to think that he says that climate change will take the birds out anyway. It reminds me of the crazy saying during the Vietnam War, we must destroy the village to save it. Bowen's effectively saying we must destroy the eagles to save them. This is a nonsense. We need to follow what the US is doing and learn from the US. The subsidies for these things must stop, and if the subsidies stop, their construction will stop. The environmental damage that they are doing to our nation is far, far too great. And when you've got China rolling out hundreds of new coal-fired power stations, the idea that we can somehow save the climate by building wind turbines in Australia is a complete and utter nonsense. This lunacy has to come to an end. We have to consider the real environmental damage that these things are doing today, not some theoretically way that we might somehow or other stop bad weather and improve the climate in the years to come. And as for Bowen Explains, what an absolute joke that is. It is truly laughable that a minister of the Crown would put out such a video.
The biggest killer of birds in the world is cats.